So I guess I'm reading chapter 38 and 39 together this time. Let's get into it. Polly drummed her fingers on her desk and stared out of the window. She was absolutely flying through her work this week. She didn't know it was possible to actually enjoy work so much. She had happily sat through lunch breaks and had even stayed late and didn't feel like punching any of her fellow employees in the face yet. But it was only her third week after all. Give her time. The office had developed a light-hearted banter, and she would often hear people screaming at each other from office to office. It was all in good humor, and she loved it. She loved feeling that she was part of the team, as though she were actually doing something that made a huge impact on the finished product. She thought of Jerry every single day when she was at work. Every time she made a deal, she thanked him for pushing her all the way to the top. She still had her miserable days and didn't feel worthy of getting out of bed, of course, but excitement of her job spurred her on. She heard the radio in Chris's office next door and she smiled. On the hour, every hour, without fail, he turned on the news, and all the news seeped into Holly's brain subconsciously. She had never felt so intelligent in her life. Hey, Holly yelled, banging on the wall. Turn that thing down. Some of us are trying to work. She heard him chuckle and she smiled. She glanced back down at her work again. A freelancer had written an article on how he had traveled around Ireland trying to find the cheapest pint, and it was very amusing. There was a huge gap at the bottom of the page, and it was up to Holly to fill it. She flicked through the book of contacts and an idea came to her immediately. She picked up the phone and dialed. Hogan's. Hi, Daniel Canoli. Steve. One moment. Bloody green Steve's again. She put it on speakerphone and danced it out her room to the music while she waited. Chris walked in, took one look at her, and closed the door again. Cody smiled. Hello, Daniel. Yes. Yeah, it's Holly. How are you doing, Holly? I'm grand, thanks you. Couldn't be better. That's a nice complaint. He laughed. How's that snazzy job of yours? Well, actually, that's why I'm calling. Hooli sounded guilty. Oh no, he laughed. I have made it company policy not to employ any more Kennedys here. Holy giggled. Oh damn. And I was so looking forward to throwing drinks over the customers. He laughed. So what's up? Do I remember hearing you say you needed to advertise Club Diva more? Well, he had actually thought that he was saying it to Sharon, but she knew he wouldn't remember that minor detail. I do recall saying that, yes. Good. Well, how would you like to advertise it to X? Is that the name of the magazine you work on? No, I just thought it would be an interesting question, that's all. She joked. Of course it's where I work. Oh, of course I'd forgotten. That's the magazine that the officers just round the corner from me. That has the officers just round the corner from me. The one that causes you to walk by my front door every day, and yet you still don't call in. Why don't I see you at lunchtime? He teased. Isn't my pub good enough for you? Oh, everyone here eats their lunch in their desks, she explained. So what do you think? I think that's very boring of you all. No, I mean, what do you think about the ad? Yeah, sure, that's a good idea. Okay, well, I'll put in it in the November issue. Would you like it placed monthly? Would you like to tell me how much that would set me back? He laughed. Cody dotted her up with the fingers and told him. He said. I'll think about it, but I'll definitely go for the November edition. Oh, that's great. You'll be a millionaire after this goes to print. I better be. He laughed. By the way, there's a lunch party for some new drink coming up the week after next week. Will I put your name down for an invite? Will I put your name? Yeah, that would be great. What new drink is it? Blue Rock. It's a new alcopop that's apparently going to be huge. Tastes like shit, but it's free all night, so I'll buy the rounds. Wow, you are such a good advertisement for it. She laughed. What is it on? She took her when is it on? She took out her diary and made a note of it. That's perfect. I can come straight after work. Well, make sure you bring your bikini to work in that case. Make sure I bring my what? Your bikini, he laughed. The launch has a beach theme. But it's nearly winter, you nutter. Hey, it wasn't my idea. The slogan is Blue Rock, the hot new drink for winter. Ugh, how tacky and messy. We are getting sand thrown all over the floor, which will be a nightmare to clean. Anyway, listen, I'd better get to work. We are mad busy today. Okay, thanks, Daniel. Have a think about what you want your ad to say and get back to me. Will do. She stood up and went next door to Chris's office, a thought occurring to her. You finished dancing in there? He chuckled. Yeah, I just made up a routine. Came in to show you, she joked. What's the problem? He said. No problem, just an idea. Take a seat. He nodded to the chair in front of him. Just 3 weeks ago, she had sat there for an interview, and now here she was, putting ideas forward to her new boss. Funny how life changed so quickly. But then again, she had learned that already. What's the idea? Well, Hogan's round the corner. Chris nodded. I was just on the magazine. I was just on the owner, and he's going to place an ad in the magazine. That's great. But I hope you don't tell me about every time you fill a space. We could be here all year. Holly rolled her eyes. That's not it, Chris. Anyway, he was telling me that they're having a launch party on Tuesday week for a new drink called Blue Dog. It has a beach theme, all the staff will be in bikinis and that kind of thing. In autumn, he raised his eyebrows. It's apparently the hot new drink for winter. He rolled his eyes. Tacky. Cody smiled. That's what I said. Anyways, I just thought it might be worth covering. I know we are supposed to raise ideas in the meeting, but this is happening pretty soon. I understand. That's a great idea, Holly. I'll get one of the lads onto it. Cody smiled and stood up from her chair. By the way, did you get the garden sorted yet? Chris frowned. I've had about 10 different people come down to look at it. Tell me it'll cost 6 grand to do. That's a lot of money. Well, it's a big garden. A lot of work needs to be done. What was the cheapest quote? 5.5 grand. Why? Because my brother will do it for 5, she blurted out. 5? His eyes nearly popped out of his head. Is he any good? Remember, I told you my garden was a jungle? He nodded. Well, no longer. He did a great job on it. But the only thing is that he works alone, so it takes him longer. For that price, I don't care how long it takes. Have you got his business card with you? Eh, yeah, hold on, I'll get it. She stole some impressive looking card like paper from Alice's desk, typed up Richard's name and mobile number in fancy typeface, and printed it out, cutting the card into small rectangle shape. That's great, Chris said, reading it. I'll give him a call now. Oh no, Holly said quickly. We'll get him easier after the weekend. He's up to his eyeballs today. Right, so thanks, Holly. She started to head towards the door and stopped when he called out to her. Oh, by the way, how are you at writing? It was one of the subjects I learned at school. Chris laughed. Are you still on that level? Well, I'm sure I could purchase a thesaurus. Good, because I need you to cover that launch thing. Oh, I can't get any of the others. They've already got events to cover that evening, and I can't go to it myself, so I have to rely on you. He shuffled some papers on his desk. I'll send one of the photographers down with you. Get a few shots of the stand and the bikinis. Oh, okay. Holly's heart raced. How does 800 words sound? Impossible, she thought. As far as she knew, she had 50 words in her vocabulary. That's no problem, she said confidently and backed out of the door. Shut, 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 she thought. How on earth was she going to pull this one off? She couldn't even spell properly. She picked up the phone, and pressed redial. Hogan's. Daniel Connolly, please, one moment. Don't put me on. Green sleeves, she started. Hold, she finished. Hello, Daniel, it's me, she said quickly. Would you ever leave me alone? He teased. No, I need help. I know you do. But I'm not qualified for that, he laughed. No, seriously, I mentioned that launch to my editor and he wants to cover it. Oh, brilliant. You can forget about that ad, so he laughed. No, not that, not brilliant. He wants me to write it. That's great news. Holy. No, it's not. I can't write, she panicked. Oh, really? That was one of the main subjects in my school. Oh, Daniel, please be serious for a minute. Okay, what do you want me to do? I need you to tell me absolutely everything you know about this drink and the launch so I can start writing it now and have a few days to work on it. Yes, just 1 minute, sir. He yelled away from the phone. Look, Polly, I really have to get back to work now. She whimpered. Okay, listen. What time do you finish work? 6. She crossed her fingers and prayed for him to help her. Why don't you come around here then, and I'll take you somewhere to have a bite. Okay, thank you so much, Daniel. And she jumped around her office with relief. You're a star. She hung up the phone and breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe there was a chance she could get the article done after all and still manage to keep her job. Then she froze and went back over the conversation in her head. Had she just agreed to go on a date with Daniel? Not really, it's a work related date. So that's end of chapter 38. We'll do the chapter 39 in this video itself. So, chapter 39. Puni couldn't concentrate during the last hour of work. She kept on watching the clock, willing the time to go more slowly. For months, it was doing the exact opposite. Why didn't it go fast when she was waiting to open her messages from Jerry? She was dreading her dinner with Daniel before then. At 6 o'clock on the dot, she heard Alice switch on her computer and clatter down the wooden stairs to freedom. Polly smiled, remembering how she had once felt the same. But then again, everything was different when you had a beautiful husband to go home to. If she still had Jerry, she would be racing Alice out the door. She listened as a few of the others packed up their things and prayed Chris would dump another load of work on her desk just so she could have to stay late and cancel dinner with Daniel. She and Denise had been out together millions of times. She had Daniel, she and Daniel had been out together a million of times. So why was she worrying now? They were the two single friends, and every time somebody had a dinner party or arranged a night out, the two of them had always been invited to keep each other company, as though they were unable to speak to the other couples at the table. It seemed that people felt that if they invited Daniel, they must invite Holly too. And although they had spent most of the evenings monopolizing each other, they had always been in others' company. But something was niggling at the back of Holly's mind. There had been something in his voice that worried her, and something had happened to her stomach earlier when they spoke that made her feel uneasy about meeting up with him. She felt so guilty and ashamed for going out with him and tried to convince herself that it was a business dinner, in fact. The more she thought about it, she realized that that was exactly what it was. She smiled as though as she thought about how she had become one of those people who discussed business over dinner. Usually, the only businesses she discussed over food was men and life in general with Sharon and Denise, girls' business. She shut down her computer and packed her briefcase. Everything she did was in slow motion, as though that would prevent her from having to have dinner with Daniel. She hit herself over the head. It was business dinner. Hey, don't beat yourself up about it. Alice leaned in through Holly's door. Holly jumped with fright. Jesus, Alice, I didn't see you there. Everything okay? Yeah, she said unconvincingly. I just have to do something that I really don't want to do because but I kind of want to do it, which makes me not want to do it even more because it seems so wrong, even though it's right, you know? Alice was staring at her with wide eyes. I thought I overanalyze things. Oh, don't mind me. Fully perked up. I'm just going nuts. It happens to the rest of us. I've been getting that a lot these days from my brother. Oh, what are you doing here? Back here, Holly asked, realizing she had heard her colleague letting it out the door. Does freedom not beckon you? I know, Alice rolled her eyes, but I forgot. We had a meeting at 6. Oh, Holly was disappointed. Nobody had told me about any meeting today, which wasn't unusual because she wasn't required to be at all of them. But it was unusual for Alice to attend one without Holly being asked. Is it about anything interesting? Holly poked around for information, trying to sound uninterested while she busied herself at the desk. It's astrology meeting. Astrology? Yeah, we have it monthly. Oh, am I supposed to be there or am I not invited to it? She tried to sound bitter but failed miserably, much to her embarrassment. She tried not to sound bitter. Alice laughed. Of course you're welcome to come, Holly. I was just about to ask you, which is why I am standing outside your office. Holly put her briefcase down, feeling stupid, and followed Alice into the boardroom where everybody was waiting. Everyone, this is Holly's first astrology meeting, so let's make her feel welcome, Alice announced. Holly took her seat while they all applauded her, the new member to the table. Chris rolled his eyes at Holly. Holly, I just want you to know in advance, I have absolutely nothing to do with this nonsense. And also to apologize to you for being dragged into it. Oh, shut up, Chris. Tracy waved a hand at her boss, taking her seat at the head of the table, clutching a notepad and pen. Okay, who wants to go first this month? Let Holly go first, Alice said generously. Holly looked around, completely baffled. But I don't have a clue what's going on. Well, what's your star sign? Tracy asked. Taurus. Everyone oohed and ahed, and Chris held his head in his hand and tried to look like he wasn't enjoying himself. Oh, great, Tracy said happily. We've never had a Taurus before. Okay, so are you married or seeing anyone, or single or anything? Polly blushed as Brian winked over at her, and Chris smiled encouragingly. He was the only one at the table who knew about Jerry. Polly realized this was the first time she had to answer this question since Jerry died, and she was confused as to how to answer. No, I'm not really seeing anyone, but okay then, Tracy said, starting to write. This month, Taurus shall look out for someone tall, dark, and handsome. He shrugged and looked up. Anybody? Because he will have a big impact on her future, Alice helped out. Brian winked at Holly again, obviously finding it very amusing that he was also tall and dark, but quite obviously blind if he thought he was handsome. Holly shuddered and he looked away. Okay, the career stuff is easy, Tracy continued, so Taurus will be occupied and satisfied by a new workload that comes their way. Lucky day will be, she thought for a while, Tuesday, and lucky color is blue. She decided, looking at the color of Holly's top. Right, who's next? Hold on. Is this my horoscope for next month? Holly interrupted, shocked. Everyone around the table laughed. Have we shattered your dreams? Gordon teased. Completely, she said. I love reading my horoscope. Please tell me this isn't what all magazines do, she pleaded. Chris shook his head. Not all magazines do it like this. Holy. Some of them just hire people who have the talent to make it up. Some of them hire people who have the talent to make it up themselves without involving the rest of the office. He glared at Oh my god, this is how horoscopes are made. Glared at Tracy. Haha, Chris, she said dryly. So, Tracy, you're not psychic, Polly asked sadly. Tracy shook her head. No, not psychic, but I'm good at an agony aunt, and but I'm good as an agony aunt and at making up crossword puzzles. Thank you very much. She glared at Chris and she mouthed the word at her. Oh, you have all ruined it for me now, Polly laughed and sat back in her chair feeling deflated. Okay, Chris, you are next. This month, Gemini will overwork themselves, never leave their office, and eat junk food all the time. They need to find some sort of balance in their lives. Chris rolled his eyes. You write that every month, Tracy. Well, until you change your lifestyle, I can't change what Gemini will do, can I? They all went through everyone's star sign, and Tracy finally gave it to Brian's demands that Leo be desired by the opposite sex all month and win the lottery. Wonder what star sign Leo was. Brian was. Holly looked at her watch and realized she was very late for a business meeting with Daniel. Oh, sorry, everybody, I have to rush out, she said, excusing herself from the table. Your tall, dark, and handsome man awaits you. Alice giggled. Send him on to me if you don't want him. Holly headed outside, and her heart beat wildly as she spotted Daniel walking down the road to meet her. The cool autumn months had arrived, so Daniel was wearing his black leather jacket again, teamed with blue jeans. His dark hair was messy, and stubble lined his chin. He had that just out of bed look. Holly's stomach lurched again, and she looked away. Oh, I told you, Tracy was said excitedly as she walked out the door behind him, Holly and behind Holly, and hurried off down the road happily. I'm so sorry, Daniel. Holly apologized. I got tied up in a meeting and I couldn't call. Don't worry about it. I'm sure it was important. He smiled at her and she felt instantly guilty. This was Daniel, her friend, not someone she should be avoiding. What on earth was wrong with her? So, where would you like to go? He asked. How about in there? Odie said, looking at the small cafe on the ground floor of her office building. She wanted to go to the least intimate and most casual place possible. Daniel scrunched up his nose. I'm a bit hungrier than that. If you don't mind, I haven't eaten all day. They walked along together, and Hoodie pointed out every single cafe along the way, which Daniel shook his head every time. Eventually, he settled on an Italian restaurant that Hoodie couldn't say no to. Not because she wanted to go in, but because he had said no to every other restaurant on the road. Inside it was just quite in, inside it was quiet, with just a few tables occupied by few couples staring longingly into each other's eyes in the candlelight. Daniel stood up to take his jacket off, and Hooli quickly blew out the candles on the table when he wasn't looking. He was dressed in a deep blue shirt, highlighting the color of his eyes and making them seem luminous in the dim restaurant. They make you sick, don't they? Daniel laughed, following Hooli's gaze on a couple on the far side of the room who were holding hands across the table. Actually, no, they make me sad. Daniel hadn't heard her, as he was busy reading the menu. What are you having? I'm going to have a Caesar salad. Daniel rolled his eyes. You woman and your salads. Aren't you hungry? Not really. She shook her head, then blushed as her stomach crumpled loudly. I think somebody disagrees with you down there, he laughed. I don't think you ever eat Holy Kennedy. Just not when I'm with you, she thought. I just don't have a very big appetite, that's all. Yeah, well, I've seen rabbits eat more than you do, he laughed. I don't know. What is it with women not wanting to eat in front of men ever? It's a natural thing. You have a stomach, you're hungry. Cody tried to control the conversation, steering it into safe territory, and they spent the evening talking about the launch pad. She wasn't in the mood for discussing their private feelings and thoughts tonight. She wasn't even sure what exactly they were right then. Daniel had kindly bought a copy of the press release so that Holly could look through it in advance and get to work on the article as soon as possible. He also gave her a list of phone numbers for the people who worked at Blue Rock so that Holly could get a few quotes. He was extremely helpful, giving her tips on what angle to take and who to talk to for more information. She was now feeling a lot less panicked about having to write an article, however, a little more panicked about why she had been so uncomfortable with a man that she was certain only wanted to be her friend. She was also still starving, having only eaten a few lettuce leaves. She stepped outside of the restaurant for a breath of fresh air. Daniel paid the bill. He was an extremely generous man. There was no denying that, and she was glad of his friendship. It just didn't feel quite right for her to be eating in an intimate restaurant with anyone other than Jerry. She froze and tried to hide her face as she spotted a couple walking towards her, so she really did not wish to who she really did not wish to see. She went over she bent over to pretend to tie her shoelace until she realized she had worn her zip up boots that day and ended up embarrassingly fumbling with the ends of her trouser. Holy, is that you? She heard the familiar voice. She stared at the two pairs of shoes walking in front of her and slowly looked up to meet their eyes. Hello there. She tried to sound surprised while nervously steadying herself to her feet. How are you? The woman asked, giving her a hug. What are you doing standing here out in the cold? Holy prayed that Daniel stayed inside for another while longer. Oh, I was just having a bite to eat, she smiled shakily, pointing at the restaurant. Oh, we are just about to go in there, the man said, smiling. It was a shame we missed you. We could have eaten together. Yes, yes, it's a shame. Well, good for you anyway, the woman said, putting her on the back, patting her on the back. It's good to get out and do things on your own. Well, actually, Holly glanced at the door again, praying that it would not open. Yes, it's nice to do that, she trailed off. There you are, Daniel said, stepping outside. I thought you had run off on me. He wrapped his arm loosely around her shoulder. Holly smiled at him weakly and turned to face the couple. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there, Daniel smiled, turning to face them. The couple stared back at him stonily. Daniel, this is Judith and Harold, Jerry's parents. I knew it was coming. Okay, so this is the end of chapter 39. I forgot how to speak English back there for some while. I don't know why. But yeah, thank you for listening. Meet you at chapter 40.